rain hammered against the windows of the small roadside diner just outside Chicago. Most people rushed in, grabbed coffee, and hurried back into the storm without looking twice at the tired waitress carrying heavy trays between crowded tables. But one man noticed. And in less than 10 minutes, a simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever. The waitress looked exhausted. Her hands shook slightly as she poured coffee for a rude customer in a business suit. Then suddenly the man slammed his fist on the table so hard the silverware jumped. "You call this service?" he shouted loud enough for the whole diner to hear. Everyone looked away, except for a quiet single father sitting in the corner with his young daughter. Before the night was over, he would stand up for a stranger he'd never met. Never knowing the woman he protected secretly owned one of the biggest companies in the city. But what happened afterward shocked everyone. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below if you enjoy emotional stories about kindness and unexpected life moments. Welcome to Hidden Truth Stories, where one small act of compassion can change everything forever. Daniel Carter hadn't planned to stop at the diner that night. The 38-year-old mechanic had just finished a 12-hour shift at an auto shop. His back hurt, his boots were soaked from the rain, and all he wanted was to get home. But his 8-year-old daughter Lily was hungry after her school concert, so he pulled into the parking lot of Rosie's Diner. Daniel had been raising Lily alone since his wife passed away 4 years earlier. Life hadn't been easy. Bills piled up constantly, and some months he barely kept ahead of rent. Still, no matter how hard life became, he tried to teach Lily one important thing. Always be kind, he told her often. You never know what someone else is carrying. Inside the diner, the smell of coffee and fried potatoes filled the air. Country music played softly from an old radio near the kitchen. Most of the booths were full because of the storm. That's when Daniel first noticed the waitress. Her name tag read, Emma. She moved quickly between tables, apologizing whenever food arrived late. But Daniel could tell something was different about her. She didn't seem like someone who normally worked there. Her uniform fit awkwardly, like she wasn't used to wearing it. Her speech sounded polished and educated. And despite the stressful rush, she treated every customer with patience. Lily noticed too. She looked sad. Lily whispered quietly. Daniel glanced toward Emma again. Maybe she's just having a rough day. A few minutes later, the businessman at the center booth began yelling. I've been waiting 20 minutes for cold meatloaf, the man barked. This place is a joke. I'm very sorry, sir, Emma said calmly. The kitchen's backed up because of the storm. I can replace it for you. That's not good enough. People stared into their drinks, pretending not to hear. Then the man grabbed Emma's wrist as she turned away. Maybe if you spent less time flirting and more time working, hey. The word cut through the diner like thunder. Daniel stood slowly from his booth. Let go of her. The businessman frowned. Mind your own business. Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady and calm. You heard me. For a second, nobody moved. Then the man released Emma's wrist with an annoyed scoff. She's a waitress. I'm allowed to complain. You can complain without grabbing someone, Daniel replied. The diner manager rushed over nervously, trying to calm everyone down. The businessman threw cash onto the table and stormed out into the rain. Silence filled the room afterward. Emma looked shaken. Thank you, she said softly. Daniel shrugged gently. Nobody deserves that. And Lily smiled at Emma from the booth. My dad says bullies are cowards. For the first time that night, Emma laughed quietly. It was small, but real. Daniel and Lily finished their meal while the storm continued outside. When Daniel asked for the check, the older cashier shook her head. Your bill's already been covered. Daniel looked confused. By who? The cashier pointed toward the kitchen, but Emma was already gone. Daniel smiled slightly and left with Lily, assuming he'd never see the waitress again. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Daniel arrived at the auto shop at 7 a.m. like always. The garage owner, Mike, looked nervous. There's someone here asking for you, he said. Standing near the office door was Emma. Except she looked completely different. Gone was the wrinkled diner uniform. She wore a tailored navy coat and elegant heels. Her hair was neatly styled, and a black SUV waited outside the garage. Daniel almost didn't recognize her, and Emma smiled warmly. "Good morning. What are you doing here?" Daniel asked. "I came to thank you properly." Before Daniel could respond, another man stepped out of the SUV carrying folders and a tablet. "This is my assistant, Robert," Emma explained. Robert extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Carter." Daniel stared in confusion. Emma took a slow breath. "My full name is Emma Sinclair." Daniel's expression changed instantly. Everyone in Chicago knew that name. Emma Sinclair was the billionaire CEO of Sinclair Technologies, one of the largest tech companies in the country. Daniel blinked. "Wait, you own Sinclair Tech?" Emma nodded. Mike nearly dropped a wrench behind them. "But why were you working at a diner?" Daniel asked. Emma glanced toward the busy street outside. "Because I needed to remember who people really are." Daniel frowned slightly, unsure what she meant. Emma explained that after her father died the previous year, she inherited full control of the company. But lately she'd begun to feel disconnected from ordinary people. Executives lied to impress her. Employees acted differently around her wealth. So for several weeks, she secretly visited businesses owned by Sinclair Technologies subsidiaries while disguised as a regular worker. "I wanted to see how employees treated each other when nobody important was watching," she said. Daniel folded his arms. Emma's smile faded a little. Most people ignored problems unless it benefited them. Then she looked directly at him. "But you didn't." Daniel felt uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did what anyone should do." "That's the problem," Emma said quietly. "Most people don't." Robert handed Emma a folder. "I know this may sound strange," she continued, "but I'd like to offer you something." Daniel opened the folder carefully. Inside was a proposal. Sinclair Technologies wanted to fully renovate Mike's struggling auto shop and turn it into a company-supported community repair center that provided low-cost services for single parents and elderly residents. Daniel looked stunned. "You do that?" Emma nodded. "But only if you agree to manage it," Mike nearly shouted with excitement. Daniel stared at the papers again, overwhelmed. "This is because of last night?" Emma shook her head slowly. "No. Last night only confirmed something I already suspected." "What's that?" "That kindness reveals character faster than power ever will." For the next several months, Daniel's life changed in ways he never imagined. The small repair shop transformed completely. New equipment arrived. Broken walls were repaired. Young mechanics from difficult backgrounds were offered apprenticeships. Daniel became known throughout the community for helping people who couldn't afford repairs. And sometimes he stayed late into the night fixing cars for struggling families at no charge. And every few weeks, Emma quietly stopped by, not as CEO, just as Emma. She'd sit in the office drinking coffee while Lily talked endlessly about school and cartoons. Slowly, the cold distance Emma carried around others began to disappear. One evening after closing, Emma admitted something she'd never told anyone. "When my father built the company, he always said success means nothing if people fear you instead of trust you," she said softly. Daniel leaned against the garage doorway. "He sounds like a smart man." He was. Emma smiled sadly. "But after he died, I forgot that lesson." Outside, the sunset painted the sky orange over the city. "You reminded me," she added. Daniel shook his head modestly. "I just stood up for someone." "No," Emma replied. "You stood up for someone when there was nothing to gain." That was the difference. Months later, Sinclair Technologies launched a nationwide kindness initiative supporting small community businesses and workers facing hardship. News outlets praised Emma's leadership, but very few people knew the real story behind it. Only Daniel. One snowy December evening, Rosie's Diner hosted a free holiday dinner funded by Sinclair Technologies. Families filled the booths laughing and sharing warm meals. The same cashier from that stormy night smiled when Daniel entered with Lily. "You started something big," she told him. Daniel looked around the crowded diner. Waitresses moved calmly without fear of rude customers. Children laughed near the jukebox. Elderly couples shared slices of pie. and near the counter Emma stood helping refill coffee cups while wearing a simple apron again. Not because she had to, 'cause she wanted to. Lily tugged Daniel's sleeve. Dad? Yeah? Do you think one small kind thing really changes people? Daniel looked across the diner at Emma, and then he smiled. I know it does. Because sometimes kindness doesn't arrive with cameras, applause, or recognition. Sometimes it happens quietly in a crowded diner on a rainy night. A tired single father stands up for a stranger. A little girl reminds adults how to treat people. And a woman hiding behind an ordinary uniform rediscover what truly matters. The truth is, most people will never become billionaires or famous leaders. But every single person has the power to protect someone, encourage someone, or make another human being feel seen. And often those small moments become the very thing that changes a life forever. So the next time you see someone struggling, don't look away. Because kindness has a strange way of coming back around when the world least expects it. And sometimes, the person you help may be carrying far more than you could ever imagine. Thanks for watching Hidden Truth Stories. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes kindness still matters. Until next time, remember, even the smallest act of compassion can create the biggest change in someone's life.